Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 9 of our podcast, Separated by Water. Joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Colin Campbell. How are you, Colin?
Okay, all good.
Good. In this episode, Colin is going to try and make sense of the new Champions League qualifying system and discuss the merits and disadvantages of this new 36-team draw. I will summarise very briefly Man City's legal victory against the Premiership and what it means to the rest of the clubs in the league. The last couple of episodes of the podcast have been very busy in the comment section, and that's what we want, guys. So if you would join in with us again tonight and keep it busy for our next episode of Separated by Water.
Good evening. Well, thanks, Paul. As Paul said, my name is Colin Campbell. I'm a Spurs season ticket holder. I live in Drumahoe, Northern Ireland, for my sins, and very happy to be here tonight. We mentioned before, but I said it again without apology. This podcast is for everyone. We're all inclusive. We want to encompass as many opinions as we can get. But there is, of course, a particular emphasis on those of us, north or south, who support teams in England. Not necessarily Premier League, but wherever. And we want to hear from you. And if you'd like to come on, you've seen some of the guests before. We'll help you along. It would be great to hear from you, hear your story, hear about your team, and hear all about it. Okay, a couple of things to get us going. I think, first of all, I'd like to say Paul's puzzler, which is proving quite interesting at the minute. Okay. Paul, do you have a puzzle for us?
I do. It's very straightforward compared to his last. If I could just get it up, that's it. There we go. Which club has won the most FA Cup titles? And for the swats among you, how many, if you can? Don't Google it, guys. Just try and dig it out of your memory and count it up.
I know who it used to be. I know who it used to be.
Yeah.
But that's not the answer. I appreciate that.
Oh.
Okay, Paul, we talked about comments there and guests. We had a guest, our Chelsea supporting guest, last week, Derek, was on. And I think there's a wee bit of follow-up from that. Could you talk us through that?
Yeah, right. Okay. What I'd done in the description, I'd put on that Derek was going to discuss the Cole Palmer show where he scored the four goals and in the first half, which is a new Premiership record, as we know. I forgot to do it. We just got carried away with the thing. So what I done was I arranged to meet Derek on Sunday online, and I said we'd do a 1.5, 2 minute thing. Where we do a video of it, and then we would include it in this podcast tonight. Yeah. But I couldn't. We ended up going on for over 5 or 6 minutes. So I've actually put that up in our channel. As you know, Derek can talk, and it was all very interesting. And his enthusiasm about Chelsea and Cole Palmer really came across in it as well. So what I've done is I've put up where you see all the other videos in our channel. And we have our what I've done is done a wee excerpt from it here. So I'll just play a wee bit and let you see how
Palmer after last season. You see, he's gonna disappear a bit this season, but not a bit of it. The guy has unbelievable control, balance, weight of pass, everything, and a lot of things that maybe wouldn't have come across when you see highlights. He does track back a bit. He gets in front of the attackers and makes things a bit awkward, which a lot of players will not cross the half island in their own half. But as I said, the first goal was well taken goal. Obviously, the second goal was a penalty. Yeah, I think he's missed a penalty in for Chelsea. So you keep thinking this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one that he's going to miss. But as I say, everything centres around.
So as he says, everything centres around him. And it does, and he's been voted. What is it? Player of the year or something like
that. He was young player. Yeah, he's certainly done some. I laughed at myself there very long, kindly. It was Cole Palmer 4 goals in one half.
Yeah, first half.
Okay, it wasn't if you remember Cork and Palmer. It might have been 4 goals in 4 seasons. Scotland, although a great player. Sorry, Cork.
Second thing I forgot to go last week, and I didn't tell you I was doing this, is I made a prediction in episode 7 that we would get a draw. And look at the
You
two
did.
boys laughing at me. Look at the two boys laughing at me in this.
Prediction, score, prediction.
Eh, I'm going to go for a draw. That's assuming that we turn up. But I'm telling you now, if Cole starts to run about that. So, what was the score? Just remind me, what was the score?
Score was 1 each, yes. And
Yeah, it was a
I'm
draw.
not doing too well here, so I've apologised for Brennan Johnson. I'm apologising for your 1-1 draw.
Yeah,
Apologise for beating Liverpool. I need something to come my way. Well, fair enough. Yes, and I was delighted. And what did I say about Chris Wood? What did I say about Chris Wood?
Yeah, you were the first person to tell me he would score goals, and you were dead right.
Play to his strengths, and I'm delighted for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, last week we said we would talk about two things in main tonight because we had no guest on. One is the Champions League and the Man City slot. My Man City legal slot is going to be very short and very vague compared to yours, I hope. So tell us about this new qualifying system, Colin, for the Champions League.
Okay, the UEFA Champions League, as it's really known, and for a start, it comprises of a lot more than the champions of each country involved. And it is a league and knockout and every other format you can think of. So UEFA Champions League is a bit of a term rather than an accurate description, but so what? It used to be, when I was younger, the European Cup, which was individually the winner of the respective leagues played together and knocked each other out until Real Madrid won it, usually, However, I think in history, the story goes that Berlusconi, who was the owner of AC Milan, I think once he was premier of Italy, who owned AC Milan, they were freakishly knocked out early one time. He looked at the amount of lira at that time that they were going to lose as a result and determined that would never happen again, that the big teams needed a cushion of league status in order to make sure that a one-off mistake could easily be rectified. Then we had the Champions League, which had been expanded through the years from 2 teams to 3 teams, in some countries 4. All right. So they worked most recently, they worked in 8. There was a preliminary qualifying series of rounds as there remains. Okay. So the preliminary start probably July, August, September, and they are for teams from minor leagues, which can be anything from probably the Faroe Islands to some of the countries who unfortunately cannot match the wealth of the big countries. So you may have your Polands, your Belgiums, your Bulgarians, some great teams from those countries, Gornik, Anderlecht and so on, who maybe just can't compete anymore. So they will find a way to get into what was the 32 teams. There was 8 groups of 4. Top 2 went through to round of 16. The third one went to the UEFA League and the fourth one went out. So the thinking was that there were too many dead rubbers and not too many dead matches towards the end and not enough big ties to whet the appetite. So now what we have is a UEFA Champions League made up of 36 teams, and but they will play instead of 6 games of a round robin within a group of 4, they will now play 8 games which are selected on a seeded basis from all of those teams.
Sorry, Colin. How are they seeded?
There's a thing called the coefficient, and the coefficient is a mathematical equation which notes the team's performance previously in European competition and works out and gives them a score, which they then use as the ranking or the seeding order. So inevitably, the bigger teams are at the top of that. And some teams, the lesser teams are towards the bottom. So the top teams are seeded to the top and the lesser teams to the bottom. Okay. So that's the coefficient you'll hear people talk about. And countries have a coefficient too, based on the collective performance of their teams. And recently there have been talk about the English League, Premier League, getting a 5th place in this Champions League. But alas, they did not make it, So some countries have 2, some have 3, and some have 4. I think 1 now is 5, I'm pretty sure. So and the balance of power is where the balance of power is. Teams will now play instead of the match, they would play in a league form. They'll play 8 games, 36 teams, so there's 4 more teams already in this. And rather than 6 games, they'll play 8 games, 4 at home and 4 away. But teams won't be playing each other at home and away. So you can play team A at home and team B away. No. So it's not a home and away basis. It's more random than that. It's based on breaking that league into 3 thirds and having each of them seeded and making sure that you play an equal number from each of the seeded groups. All right.
Right.
So far so good. All right.
Yeah, I think I know where this is going. Yeah.
Well, so rather than play home and away, you play maybe team A at home and team B away, but not team A away. You only play them once. And at the end of that, there is a league table. Okay. From that league table, the top 8 teams advance directly into the round of 16. Okay? They're in.
Yeah.
The teams ranked from 9th to 16th in this league table are seeded, reseeded, if you will. And they will play the teams who ranked in this league from 17th to 24th. Okay? And they will play a knockout home and away, just like the old days.
Right.
So to recap, the top 8 are through, having a laugh, right? 9th to 16th play 17th to 24th home and away, and the winners of those join the 8 to make up a group of 16.
Right.
And if you're wondering, if you're still with me, the teams from 25th to 36 are out. They're gone. Okay, they're eliminated, and they do not. Thankfully, they do not enter the Europa League or anything else after that. Okay. So when we finally get to the round of 16, which we now are, the top 8 and the 8 who have come through that home and away arrangement, they're seeded. The top 8 are seeded, and they play against the winners of the knockout phase on a home and away basis, as mentioned above. Okay.
Right. So back to the home and away, back to more original format.
We really understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happens is the usual teams will knock the usual teams out, and either Real Madrid or Man City will win it. So, happy days.
Is it to suit the bigger teams again? Do you think this suits the bigger teams again? Is this like a variation on the Super League? Do you just?
I don't know. I don't want to be skeptical. A few things I will say is that the teams who are players complaining about the number of matches. UEFA and FIFA are getting heat about that, particularly FIFA. So it does seem interesting to me that they increase the number of matches already in the early stages. They say that the bigger teams will play each other earlier in the competition, which should increase the excitement. I'm not sure, because you may have a PSG playing a Real very early on. And what jeopardy is in that? Because say, well, look, we can afford to lose that because of another series of games that will win all them. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would be a concern to me. And we've seen a few, strange results already. So in conclusion, I congratulate them for trying something. I think for me, and I am not, even when Spurs are in it, I'm not a great lover of the Champions League. I just wonder where it's come from and where it's going. But I, congratulate them for trying to do something. And in the absence of me saying let's revert back to a knockout stage where it really counts. See it if you want, but let's start knocking each other out. But the TV, the world TV, and I think throughout the world. And bear in mind, I was in Vancouver last week. I visited the Vancouver Spurs Supporters Club. And they had very kindly loaned the premises, the bar, to the Aston Villa Supporters Club, who at lunchtime were ready to watch a Champions League game. So that's the kind of excitement it has. So they want games,
Right.
And that's the way it is.
Yeah, well, it's nearly at saturation stage now with the amount of games that's on TV, and the amount of competitions they're playing in. I don't know what else they can fit in now with this Nations League or whatever it is at the minute that they're playing in the international break.
Yeah, and
It
then there's
just
going to
seems,
be a world club championship to come as well, which in theory sounds brilliant. Played in some exotic location, but players are going to, well, two things. Either the bigger teams are going to get stronger and have two separate or three separate teams,
yeah,
three separate sets of 11 to represent them in different competitions, which I think is a bit, not the spirit of it.
yeah,
Or players will continue to be injured, or they'll be striking with something. So I think in the interests of football, generally, I think everyone needs to calm it down. And
okay,
sometimes people say you can never have too much money. I disagree with that fundamentally. I think
yeah,
there's enough money in the thing, and we really should be going now for quality and excitement and competition. So,
yeah.
any questions on that? Hopefully, that's it in a nutshell.
It answers it for me. It's come up a couple of times in conversation. Just does anybody
Yeah,
understand what's going on in this league now, or in this qualifying system? So
yeah,
no, that
yeah.
makes it a lot clearer for me. I'm not sure
Okay.
the jeopardy. Unfortunately, it doesn't affect me watching my team at the weekends as yet. Hopefully, in the
Yeah,
future, you never know. One never knows. One never knows. We've a couple of comments in, a couple of answers there. I assume that's Martin saying Arsenal
that's Martin
14
Smith. My
times.
good friend. Shout out to Martin. Good man.
Yeah, yeah.
Aye.
So,
Okay.
and Fergus Harrington, same thing again. So,
Yeah.
okay, I'll reveal the answer of that at the end. I was going to
Okay.
do a slot, Colin. We said we'd do a slot on discussing the Premiership court case against Man City and how Man City had won this. It's been written up in different ways, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Premiership are saying they more or less won it, and the more I dug into it, the less I understood. To be honest, I do know that it's to do with aspects of associated party transactions, where if you own a club and I'm a shareholder, I loan you money. It has to be seen to be the payments seem to be done at market value at the interest rates or not. That rule still stands. But it was some buy. It wasn't such a big victory from what I can read, that they basically had how they judge whether it's been done to the market rates or not wasn't given forward to Man United or Man City, and therefore it was deemed in them two cases not to be right. But the rule still stands. But the interesting thing that I found when I was digging, Everton, Newcastle, and Chelsea were revealed to have given witness statements in support of City. Yeah, so what about them three clubs? All them three clubs are in the exact same boat as City are. They've got wealthy owners. Newcastle, Chelsea, and Everton. Everton's getting the new takeover. Whilst Liverpool, Man United, West Ham, and Arsenal and Brighton all made submissions in the report to support the league.
I think Spurs did too.
I did. When the article wasn't in mine, so there you are. So that tells me that the teams that can generate their income from merchandise, like Spurs, like United, like Liverpool, Arsenal, they don't want this big owner coming in and running the whole thing, spending all the money, and not being able to justify it. So, look. At the end of the day, I think the status quo will be maintained. The rich clubs will continue to do better, and they'll find loopholes to get right through the whole thing. And that's the way I see it. Status quo will be maintained. That's how I'd sum it up. But I don't think it was such a big victory after all, as they were making it to be.
There's the old saying: if you're not confused, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think it was in the interest of both groups in this to muddy it up a wee bit and pick out the bits that suited them. From City's point of view, it helps strategically because they can kind of say, well, soften things down and say, look, well, we weren't wrong here, and you tried to accuse of this, that, and the other thing, and we weren't, we were fine, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on. For me, my interest is in the level of competition and the genuine opportunities we've talked about here before. I mean, we try to be intelligent, informative, and invigorating, as we've said before. And certainly, the intelligent point of view is to say that we, only a fool. What happens when there's nobody else to play?
Yeah.
And leagues become redundant, and competition dies. People will walk away. I believe, and they're going to say, well, they're going to play each other 5 times a year. I just don't think that works. And I think if clubs can pull away too far from other teams, it's not good for the long term. Not good for the long term.
No, fair enough.
All right.
Emerald Eye, have you got something for us in Emerald Eye tonight? Hold on,
Yeah,
I'll just we've got a new wee video there while you prepare for it there.
Yeah. This wee feature is just always to keep an eye on guys from this island who are playing professional football over in England. And the one I wanted to shout out, and I'll give a thumbs up to, was Robbie Brady, who scored a winner, I think, at Finland for the Republic the weekend. Unfortunately, then they went and blew it against Greece, but leaving that aside, Robbie's one of those guys I admire. He's carved out a really good career for himself. Never, made a really good use of his talent. Was a good, honest pro, as I would say. And I mean that as a real compliment, because these are the guys who are the salt of the earth. Robbie started with Man U. I think he only appeared once, I think, against Newcastle. He moved to Hull City. He was there a couple of times on loan, and then he moved permanently in August 2013. He played well there. He then moved to Norwich City. As Hull went down, Norwich went up. He played there for a while and then joined Burnley. Many people might know him from there when they had a good run in the Premiership. But probably that was about where Robbie was going to be in terms of teams going up, trying to stay up, or teams going down, so on and so forth. Bournemouth, more recently, 3 years ago. And then a couple of years ago, he moved to Preston North End, a very worthy team, great history. And so far, so good, doing well there. Yeah. I remember years and years ago, my parents took my brother and me to Morecambe in England for our holidays, the early 70s. There was a shop in Morecambe owned by 2 footballers, Preston North End players, Alan Spavin and Alan Kelly. And Alan Kelly was the Republic of Ireland goalkeeper at that time, long-standing, and they owned a sports shop. So that was a connection that Preston had been promoted at that time, and the big poster up in the wall was all very exciting. They played in Spurs colours, or they would remind me Spurs played in Preston colours. Yeah. So shout out to Robbie Brady. Keep her lit, keep her going. You've plenty of fans. Good luck. One other thing I just want to mention. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'd be interested to hear if anybody's any comments on how they think Ireland are doing. I heard a couple of comments that they thought they were playing terrible, absolutely shocking. I have to confess, I didn't see the games. I was otherwise occupied, but I would be interested to hear what people's views are on Ireland, how they're going to get on.
Well, you remember a lot of weeks ago I spoke about the two managers, O'Neill and Hogrimson, and how they could be affected by levels of expectation, and that ironically O'Neill making more time. I think that was their 3rd win in 19 and first win for him. Against Finland, and then Greece, who are obviously no dozers again, sort of rained on the parade. What he's trying to say is they need to play with more assertiveness, more confidence, and so on. Wins usually help that, but I worry sometimes.
They were playing with passion, Colin, having lost one of their players as well. Yeah, Greece. I think there was an extra passion. They were playing there.
Yeah, it brings me to that actually. A big shout out, George Baldock, again, one of the salt of the earth players who unfortunately passed away. He signed for Panathinaikos in Greece, a team, one of the great names. And he passed away sadly. And Panathinaikos have announced that they will pay the full amount of his contract, 3 years, to his wife and young child. I think that's excellent. In the days of money grabbing, what a wonderful idea. Pana, I think, started by Irishmen many years ago. Their badge is a very, very large shamrock, something like that. I remember them first, and the first of the trilogy of Ajax European Cup wins in the early 70s. They were beaten by Ajax at Wembley. It was all right in my memory. And I think had they not come up against that world football defining Ajax team of Cruyff and Neeskens and my God, Johnny Rep.
A great team.
That was a great team. They were a great team themselves. They've been surpassed a little bit by Olympiacos in recent years, but well done, Pana. We'll love it. Thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okey-doke.
Just before we come to my note of concern,
Yeah.
Colin, and that was a lovely touch by the club. In fairness, it
Yeah.
was. There's a fixture for the weekend. Anybody listening to us, tell us give us your predictions. I know there's a Man United Ferg's listening with us. So how's Man United going to get on against Brentford? We'll do our predictions at the end, Colin.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, I'll just get rid of that. So let us know how you think your teams are going to do.
Yeah.
Note of concern, and I don't want to keep on going on about this, but I don't know, you're laughing already, you're smiling already.
No, I'm very serious. Serious face.
Forest have been hit with a 750,000, £750,000 fine for a tweet. That's the tweet. 3 extremely poor decisions, 3 penalties not given, which we simply cannot accept. We warned the PGMOL that the VAR is a Luton fan before the game, but they didn't change him. Our patience has been tested multiple times. NFFC will now consider its options. I will preface what I'm about to say is that was a stupid tweet. It was silly. It was knee-jerk reaction. But to give a recap, at that game against Everton, we had 3 clear penalties. Stuart Atwell was in VAR. Ashley Young kicked a player in the box, brought him down. It was a clear handball. And there was another one which was, if I was erring on the side of impartiality, I'll say 2 were definite. But I would still say, in this day and age, 3 penalties should have been given. That tweet goes out. I think it's disproportionate. I think it's completely disproportionate. And I think that...
What is, Paul, the tweet or the fine? What's disproportionate?
The fine for the tweet is disproportionate. I think it's hugely good. Whenever you consider Spurs being one of the 6 teams that broke away to create a Super League, collectively they were fined 22 million, which is 3.6 million each for completely wanting to leave the league. Split its throat and throw them behind them. I think the fine is disproportionate, but there's more than that to it, Colin. Where does the money go to? Where does the money go to? Does it go to grassroots football? No, it doesn't. Does it go to a charity? No, it doesn't. Do you know where it goes? It appears in FA's accounts of other income. And,
right.
And to add insult to injury, that 750,000 will be included in our financial PSR. So there's another guts of £1 million that we have to juggle about and try and make work. Now, Forest have always had a tumultuous relationship with the FA. Some say it's since the day of Brian Clough, where he was very, very difficult to handle, and he was always saying things that got him into soapy water or hot water, I should say. I don't know, but I look forward to seeing a similar offence like this, a tweet being put out, because it will happen, and seeing if it's dealt with in the same way. I just think 750,000.
Okay, I do understand your feelings about this. If we break it down a wee bit, I mean, most people have emotional reactions to referee or VAR decisions. I certainly have been the recipient of them over the last few years. And bad refereeing decisions. And if anyone can remember Michael Carrick's non-goal against Man United at Old Trafford all those years ago, where the ball was about 3 or 4 yards over the line, and Roy Carroll flicked it out, and the referee didn't give it. Jeez, so sort of speaking from experience, I think for the crowd, people will say something about referees' decisions, and it's very clearly the heat of the moment, and sometimes managers are asked to explain themselves and so on. A tweet suggests that this was calculated, that it was, done objectively, with a bit of thought, and the language is quite emotive, is it? Would you? I mean,
I agree. I agree. It was a silly tweet to be put out. The story is that he wanted to put it out at half time.
Do you know who did the tweet? Do we know? You don't need to say, but do we know who?
On the actions, on the instruction of Marinakis, the owner of the club, it was him that said he wanted the tweet to be sent. I think he's a couple of times he's got involved in things he shouldn't have
Yeah,
got involved in,
yeah,
getting down on
yeah.
the touchline. You've
Yes.
never seen a chairman down on the touchline before in your life, or an owner.
Right.
But anyway, look,
Okay.
I'm cross about it. But where that surely that fine, if it's somebody's going to take 750,000 off a team, make it go to good use. Give it to grassroots football. Give it to local clubs. Give it to somewhere instead of just more money into the
Well,
money.
I agree with you, and that's another point about how the FA use their money.
Yeah.
And other income seems like a strange one to have when they could be using it for a good cause. Notwithstanding, I do think that I think the tweet was ill-advised.
Yeah.
But
Oh, for
having
sure.
said that, once it went out, it appears to me at face value that $750,000 is high.
Yeah.
I think that's high for what was done. I think there could have been another way. There could have been a slap on the wrists and an acknowledgement and retraction by Forrest, and maybe a fine of sorts. You know what I mean? But it'd be interesting to see how, because yep, everyone's watching to see what happens from now on, and that's a problem that we all create for ourselves in life if we put a sanction on something, particularly if it's perceived to be quite high, and then who knows? But okay, thank you for that. I hope
No
you
bother.
got that off your chest.
Fergus reckons 2-1 United, hopefully.
So these are predictions.
There's predictions. That's Brentford. Brentford had a few fast first goals, haven't they?
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, we said we'd chat about our fantasy league, and then we'll go on to our predictions, Colin. Fantasy league. What do I say?
Okay.
For those of you who don't know,
go.
we have a fantasy league. There's 20 of us in it. There's the top of the league now.
I don't see me there.
You're not at the top. You're down at the bottom of me. We've 20 teams in the league. The league has been topped by Tim Houston's team. My Time Will Come. In second place for a couple of weeks was Shane Robinson's son in 20 seconds. And I need to ask him about the name of that team because he's a Chelsea supporter and it's a reference to son. I take it from Spurs. So. Anyway, last week Jack Ryan jumped into second place with a massive 90 points. His 90 points, that's massive. The Chosen None. Jack Neal's Beanie Boy, 71 points last week. I had 27 points. I had 27 points.
Let's see us. Are you going to
bottom?
The walk of shame.
That'd be just above me there, Colin.
No, and I as I always say, Drummold Villa, yeah, down, well, in the relegation. Yeah, no, if I were to, I missed a week. I keep saying that, but
you did.
I'm always going to do. Whether that would help me or not, I doubt it. For the look of things.
Well, look, it's highlighted to me that it's incredibly difficult to get it right. I done a complete wild card on my team. Brought Haaland in as my striker. Moved things about.
Yeah,
he was 2 points last week.
Put the Scot on him.
I put the Scot on everybody. Ivan Toney headed off to the. I put Ollie. What do you call the wee Villa guy?
Ollie Watkins. Yeah.
Ollie Watkins done nothing. Salah done nothing. Of course, he was playing Forest that weekend. He couldn't do anything. We shut him down. But yeah, those at the top, well done. I just can't get a handle on this league, this management thing at all. But maybe I'll have a good week this week. I don't know.
Could I entice you to pick the whole Arsenal team then?
Yeah. There'll be comments about that now in a minute.
No, I'm sure there will.
Okay, there's the fixtures.
I think at the minute, we used to call that sacked in the morning. I think we're both awaiting the chairman's vote of confidence if we. I'd love to thank
Cal Kinsler. What is it? Domesticated Dubs FC. Thank you for your great support and holding me up. You're doing a great job, Cal. Predictions, Colin, for the weekend. You are at home.
I'm at the match. I'm going over. Yes, I'm going over at the early hours of the morning. I'll maybe do a short video, try and do a different aspect of it. I have to say there, it's a big game for West Ham. It's a big game for Spurs, slightly different reasons. I think we've got to shade that, I think United will win. I think all the usuals will, I don't see Bournemouth I'd predicted they go down, and I think this could be one of the games that proves that point. The interesting games there.
Yeah.
I think there are a few, not the usual ones. I think Ipswich Everton is a relegation battle. Southampton Leicester is a relegation battle. And those are two games that I think are, believe it or not, to me, probably the most interesting of that day.
Which is the most interesting of the day?
I think to me, Ipswich and Everton and Southampton and Leicester, purely because I think already they are, if you will, relegation battles, you know.
Yeah.
Given that City and Chelsea and Liverpool don't play the following day, I think Arsenal will dispense with Bournemouth, sadly. You know, pretty easily, in fact.
Okay.
So those are my predictions.
Perfect. United always comes to mind. I've a running bet with a United fan at the minute, so hopefully that will continue for my bet. But I think they're due a win, and I think they will come good, as Chelsea have, as we predicted. We're at home to Palace on Monday, and we're away to Leicester on Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for a 6-point week. I'm hoping that we can get the win at home. Our away form is much better than our home form for some reason. Crazy. Normally Forest was a bit of a lion's den, you know, city ground. People came to us, but I think we've got enough to beat Crystal Palace at home and start that good home run that we need.
How do you feel about the fact that the two games are in such close proximity, you know, Monday and Friday? I thought you'd have something to say about that.
If you'd said that to me last year, we didn't have the bench to back it up. We have pretty much got a bench that we can back up every position. So hopefully we avoid injuries. I'm not sure if Morgan Gibbs-White is going to be playing or not. I know he was withdrawn from the England team due to injury. I know that he has been seen around Nottingham out shopping, but what does that mean? Nothing. It means he can walk. It doesn't mean he can play football. But I'm hopeful he's there, because everything, as Derek was saying, everything forms around Cole Palmer. Everything in Forest team forms around Morgan Gibbs-White. And whilst that's very good, I think we need to maybe be able to find an alternative to that. Should it be Ward-Prowse? Should it be whoever? But we need to get an alternative to that in the midfield and see how we go with that. But yep, that's my prediction. I'm hoping we can get. If I get 4 points, I would take 4 points at the minute. I'd take the win at home and a point away to Leicester. But I'm optimistic that we'll get 6. It'll be a 6-point week for us, and hopefully being close together won't do as much harm.
Okay, Paul, puzzler. Answer to the puzzler.
The puzzler. The two guys were right. Who does Martin support, by the way? Who does Martin Smith support?
He's an Arsenal fan. Martin, good lad. He's an Arsenal fan. I know he is.
He's a good lad, other than the fact he's an Arsenal fan.
So move quickly on.
So
okay. So for the week, anything else?
It is. Can I just say we have coming up? We'll have a guest next week. We're going to do a Real Madrid special next week. Pablo's coming on with us. He's got a very strong interest in Real Madrid, and when you talk to him about it, there's a clear passion there. I think he'll be a very good guest. We're trying to line up other guests. I just got a text tonight from a Leeds supporter. As I always said, I think that Leeds are one of them teams that should be in the Premiership. I think they belong there. So we'll get him on in the coming weeks as well. We'll get things finalised. And hopefully we'll get somebody to represent Liverpool at some stage and come on with us. So yeah, that's everything I have for you, Colin. I think we've covered absolutely everything. And you want to add?
No, just if anyone's going, sure, Real Madrid don't play in England. I think that in the theme of Champions League as well, I think Real Madrid have had many titanic battles with teams from the Premiership and the old First Division as well. And they're probably the biggest club side in the world and have a place in all our hearts. So we're looking forward to that next week. So other than that, from me, guys, thank you, Paul.
I'm going to put you in the spot just before we go. I'm just going to put you in the spot because I was writing some questions for somebody the other day, and I know you've done great questions for Pablo. Who's your favourite Spurs player of all time?
Mine?
Yeah.
I know it's... Okay, when you say favourite, It means then not necessarily, I think, the best.
There's a reason why I asked you this, Colin, because I was asked the same question, and I said there's 3 different eras that I need to look at.
Yeah.
But he said, this person said to me, pick a player.
But probably my favorite, my favorite, and I'd say not the best player I'd seen, but my favorite was Graham Roberts. Robbo in the early, and that might be surprised, but I thought he would be worth about 200 million to us now. He went through brick walls, but he was a good player. He was hard as nails, but a good player. And I've had the privilege of meeting him a few times, and I was able to remind him of some of his tackles and some of his goals. And geez, he's still to this day, he looks like he's built out of a brick wall, you know.
Yeah.
So that would be mine. And he allowed Osvaldo, Glenn Hoddle, Mickey Hazard, Galvin to play because they had him. Okay.
Yeah. Just for the matter, I had to up with one, and I went with Stuart Pearce because I think he, Nottingham Forest at the time, he gave it 1,000% to every tackle, every game. He's a stalwart. He was a stalwart for Forest. Okay, guys, thanks very much for that, Colin. We'll see you next week when we'll Pablo on with the Real Madrid special. And just keep an eye in the bio on our channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It's free. Like our videos, share it, and join us next week in the comment section. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you next week, Colin.
Thank you. Cheers.